There's these people that are amazing at raising money.
Yeah.
They know how to get the money. They know how to talk to people. But it's almost like they never even had a plan to make money. They're just going to keep raising money indefinitely.
We all make mistakes early in a business. So if you're making big mistakes and you're raising $50 million of other people's money, you're making mistakes with their money.
Yeah.
And so I'm just against, man, sitting around raising money that we don't need. I want to stay efficient, lean, and profitable.
I think people for a long time forgot, like, who has the most power? It's us. We have the most power. The consumer has the most power.
Yeah.
Not you, but I think people forgot that for a long time. But you can see it starting to come back more and more.
Yeah,
like,
100%.
No. We control this.
What is it that when you look at that super team and you run with the Chargers for 5 years, they had all these pieces. What was it that kept you guys back from hitting that final goal? Because I think that same thing happens in companies and business.
Yeah.
When you have all the pieces put together, but it's that one thing that's missing. What was it?
I think that
What's up, guys? Today we have a special guest joining us on the podcast. He's a powerhouse on and off the field, known for his relentless drive and dynamic presence from his days as a ferocious linebacker in the NFL, earning multiple Pro Bowl selections, to his entrepreneurial ventures, impact, philanthropy. He has continuously made headlines. He's the founder of Lights Out Xtreme Fighting, a growing force in the MMA world, and a dedicated advocate through his Lights Out Foundation. Please welcome the one and only Shawne Lights Out Merriman. Shawne Merriman, appreciate you coming out, man.
got it, man. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming. So before this off camera, we were talking a little bit, getting to some juicy stuff. So I want to get back to that. I enjoyed that. So you just launched. How long ago did you launch Lights Out Sports?
Yeah, we Lights Out Sports TV is my free ad-supported streaming service, and we just fully launched about 60 days ago.
60 days ago.
60 days ago. Yeah.
And why did you start that?
So when I retired, I went straight to NFL Network, and I was at the launch of all these big shows. Good Morning Football that's actually still running right now. I was over there at Fox Sports, and I was at Speak for Yourself, and part of the launch there, and I was in Colin Cowherd a couple days a week. ESPN, I was over at Sports Nation for a while. ESPN, they're doing some stuff over there. I was at the launch of the WWE Network too. I hosted WrestleMania. There was in New Orleans, and I did a couple Monday Night Raws and SmackDowns. Yeah. I did a pay-per-view myself. And so, for me, I've been around the TV business, network business for a long time. And when I launched this, I was like, man, I knew everybody. I knew all the major players in the business. And so having the want to, because you gotta want to be in this business, right? Because it is tough. But having the relationships and stuff that I did, I was like, man, I can do this. And, with my MMA league, Lights Out Xtreme Fighting, we were at, all these other streaming platforms and streaming services, which I knew how to operate that business. And so, I had the outreach of all the biggest people, all the biggest players in the business. I knew exactly how the streaming business was going, the fast business. I understood that part of it. And I was like, shit, man, we can launch this. And we did. So right now we got 16 live channels on there. Everything from Mav TV and Speed Vision, motorsports, hunting, fishing, Outdoor America's on there, Pursuit, TNA.
So what is it that kind of makes you different from the other ones that's going to disrupt the sports industry as far as streaming goes?
Well, for one, it's free.
Okay.
Right? My thing is this.
Is it free with a catch, or how's that work?
No, it's ads. It's all ads. Okay. And you don't even have to put in your email anything to log in. It's, what I started seeing this business, right? There's about to be heavy subscription streaming wars going on. And they just had a big meetup down in Sun Valley in Idaho, last week, about bundling and all this stuff. You see it happening because they're just not going to survive as big as they are. They're just not going to survive because there's so much competition going on. So what I wanted to do is launch something that was, for one, everywhere. We're on Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire. We're Philips, Vizio will be up this week, Comcast, Xumo, you name it. We're on every single CTV platform there is. And I have a great team that I pulled in from other bigger streaming services to help me build out the content partnership with that. And so,
and how were you able to pull those guys in? Because some you talked about off camera.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, for one, and I'm not taking shots at anybody to try to do this, but I see some of the business models and plans to grow traction and subscriptions, and I'm like, that shit not gonna work.
Just like outdated.
It's kind of obnoxious in a way, and takes somebody like caffeine. We were talking about caffeine before. I think the caffeine content was great. They had the right direction in what they wanted to do, but they had no plan on making money. But yeah, you got VCs and hedge funds going to dump in $200+ million into a company that I could have looked at in 10 minutes and said that's not going to work, because 70% of the live streaming business come from CTV platforms. So you're operating on 30% of the entire industry.
Where did caffeine come from?
I think that
To be able to have that type of reputation that people are going to come in and dump that much money in.
well, there were that's my that was one of my biggest problems when you talk about raising money and dealing with VCs, dealing with family offices or private, whoever it is.
Yeah.
You got these people that's really good at raising money.
Yeah.
That's why, for me, I don't have any partners. We just took in a little bit of money in debt from, a good friend of mine, Zach Ellis and the ARI, who has a venture debt company. We just took a very, very small amount for the first time in 2.5 years, because I'm not going to sit up in one of these meetings and try to explain that what I'm doing is more efficient, more profitable, and we can get there faster than any other streaming company, and somebody else is dumping $200 million into a company that I can look in 10 minutes and say that doesn't work.
Well, but it's funny what you're saying. It's like it's that there's these people that are amazing at raising money.
Yeah.
They know how to get the money. They know how to talk to people. But it's almost like they never even had a plan to make money. They're just going to keep raising money indefinitely.
Because that's what happens when you get into a position where you're really good at raising money. You never got to scrap for anything.
Right.
You never had to figure anything out, and all of your mess ups, you're just going to throw $2 more million at it to fix it.
Yep.
And so I just don't come from that philosophy. We're very lean in everything that I do. My MMA company, we're super lean. I'm the one that's bringing in sponsorships, and I'm the one that's doing a lot of the heavy work, just in order for us to stay lean, so I don't have to go and hire 5 people.
But I feel like it's also, I would imagine, I mean, it's kind of a question form of a statement, but it's like you have these people that, it's seemingly they can raise money. They don't necessarily even have an idea or a thought of making money. But you, and I'll even say me, guys like us, like you want to win. I imagine that comes from, obviously you're in the NFL for a long time. Great player, amazing player, legendary. But it's like you want to win. You don't just want to be like, I built $1 billion company. We never made any money.
Right.
Like you want to make money. You want to have something successful. You want to win.
I think, when you get into that space where we get into a form where we have to make shit happen no matter what. I think the mindset in making something happen no matter what can only be built from the ground up, because if you're raising money and your first time out, you're raising, 30 to 50 million bucks. We all make mistakes early in a business. Yep. All of us do. And I don't care who you are. And you make mistakes because you're learning. And that's what me even having some very experienced people in the streaming business and MMA business, we still make mistakes. Now, the mistakes are smaller.
Yeah.
But we still make mistakes. So if you're making big mistakes and you're raising $50 million of other people's money, you're making mistakes with their money.
Yeah.
And so I'm just against, man, sitting around raising money that we don't need. I want to stay efficient, lean, and profitable.
Yeah.
And because that's more important to me, because you go out and raise all this money and you're not making a dent in the market anywhere. What does that really do for you? It's not really doing much.
And you keep the majority of the margin too, because you're not going out and you're having to take out those big lines of credit or debt, right? Yeah,
I mean, because I know people right now that got very successful businesses and they own 10% of it.
Right.
I mean, unless you're, like Jeff Bezos, that, you got $1 trillion company, you own 10% of that, then great.
Yeah.
But, the likelihood of somebody having a $1 billion company, you still only 10% is very slim.
Yeah.
Very slim. Because at that point, they're already diluted. They don't own much. And when you don't own much of what you built, you're not vested in it anymore. Because now you're just, that hard work and saying it's yours, or you put in that time and energy and effort is what keeps you getting up in the morning. And so when you build something and you give it away because somebody's coming and throwing a check at you early, that roll out of the bed doesn't feel the same anymore.
You lose your purpose.
You lose your purpose.
Man needs a purpose, man.
So what's the difference as far as, I know that you said you had the platform, which is Lights Out. That's going to be the streaming service. And then you also have your MMA. Is it like a league?
Yeah.
Or how does that work? I
So-
actually just learned about it.
Yeah, so it's called Lights Out Xtreme Fighting. We've been around since the end of 2019. We first started at Fox Regionals.
Is your new platform going to exclusively be
Yeah,
the only spot
yeah.
you can look at it?
Yeah, so we were at Fubo. We still re-air on Fubo. We still re-air on BN Sports, Bally's, Amazon Freevee, MSG, and some of these other platforms. But I wanted the traffic to be exclusively live and the fights be exclusively live on Lights Out Sports TV. Because that generates the most traffic. Nothing right now, and when you're talking about streaming, is bigger than live sports.
Right.
Nothing. And so while everybody was great to work with, why would I put somewhere that, especially if someone's not going to pay top dollar for it? If you're not paying me what you think I'm worth, then I can be out and I can show you what I'm worth somewhere else.
Yeah.
And that's my attitude towards anything. Like, I don't really, if you don't think I'm worth a certain thing, then I'm not going to sit around and try to convince you. I'm going to go build something else on my own and show you that I am, which I have. And then I took the exclusive content for Lights Out Xtreme Fighting and put it on Lights Out Sports. And we've had 2 fights successfully already on the app. And my app developer, Otera, they built out a whole entire streaming services. We did it in 100 days.
Damn.
We did that in 100 days from inception.
So is there any motivation in this that eventually, because you were talking about earlier, like these kind of mergers between these massive streaming companies, like you saw Disney and ESPN, they just came together. Do you have any idea or any vision of a roll-up, or is that not even something that you're thinking about?
Yeah, the reason why I built a standalone OTT service, because I feel like I have enough traction, enough identity, enough outreach to build something of my own and not have to go through someone else. Like, so we have distribution on all the major CTV platforms out there. And now it's about, for me, having the opportunity to sit here and do things like this to get us discovered so people know about us.
Yep.
Because the content, like by Friday, we'll have 250 sports movies and documentaries going up.
That's big.
And so, which is massive, because what we're seeing is when all the live sports, like the college, the Women's World Softball League just went up today. They're playing live, the championship live right now on Lights Out Sports.
Nice.
And so what we're seeing is all these live sports is now coming and working with us, have given us the opportunity to air like their platforms. We're seeing that's driving traffic. Now we have to have the content and library content, VOD content to match. So when people come there for the live, they got a reason to stay and watch everything else. And so that's I'm really focused on building out the rest of Lights Out Sports and make it the most interactive sports streaming platform in the world. I think we got a real opportunity to do that.
Right on, man.
So I don't know if maybe I missed it, but is your goal to knock out the competition, or is it to collaborate and eventually roll up or roll them in to Lights Out, or what is it for you?
Yeah, my goal with the streaming business is to be an aggregator, right? We don't necessarily have to compete with anybody really, because eventually, if we have enough traffic, I'm talking to everybody. So I'm like, hey, look, if you got sports, if you're doing this, come over and work with us. We'll give you the traffic and the eyeballs you're looking for, because a lot of these companies, like we have, like, I love drag racing, right? NHRA, like, I love that stuff. But sometimes it's hard to do a standalone, because how many people, even though I love drag racing, so I love NASCAR, how many people are just coming to watch just that?
Right.
And that's the problem that a lot of these guys have. And so what I did was I took everyone's content and everyone's channel, Fast Channel, and aggregated it to one place. Where, okay, you might come and watch MAV TV, but that same MAV TV guy or that same MAV TV fan is coming to watch Speed Fishing. Mm-hmm. They're coming to watch Garage Wars, right? Like on the Speed Vision side. And then I got, combat sports in there, right? So when you come and watch Swerve Combat, I got the Fight Network. So a lot of these channels and platforms, they don't have enough to do standalone. So what I became is an aggregator for everybody in that space.
Not that there's like a ton of players in extreme sports, but it's like, the UFC is obviously the big dog, but it's like, to me, it's like, how can you create a different experience? To me, everything that's the separator for me.
Yeah.
How can you create a great experience when people come there that makes you stand out from the rest? And to me, when you're talking about that and it's going to pop up on the screen or whatever, it's like, that's a whole new
changer.
It's because it's like the people that aren't there live, you can't feel it the same.
Yep.
When you're watching live or watching on TV or whatever, and that's going to bring a whole new level of like interaction to it.
Yeah.
I got a pretty good relationship with Dana. We talk over text all the time, and I'll go by the office to see him. And a lot of people are like, oh, does he help you out? Like, did Brett Favre help out Aaron Rodgers? No. But if you get an opportunity to be around that, right? And one thing I've always appreciated about Dana, and I really admire, the biggest part is he fucking still work, man. He still grinds. Like, seriously. I mean, he might, if I go by the office, he might be in a pitch meeting, like still like grinding it out. And, even with Power Slap, he has the opportunity to make Power Slap a $1 billion company. Yeah.
Crazy.
That's if he does that, which I think is very possible, it changes like.
He's saying that it might be the biggest sport in the world.
Well, so I was in his office,
You see that?
Yeah, so I know. Okay, so he was right about this part. They have more views than a lot of the major leagues. He was showing me a video. One video they got 220 million views on Power Slap.
Damn.
Because
One video, and there's like several with 50 million plus.
I think the reason why this sport may actually be the greatest sport, it's just digestible, straight to the point. Because what we're looking for is just the punch, like the power slap out of it.
Yeah,
rather than
and
watching
I think it's just so different that it draws in so many different types of views because people
Exactly.
it kind of has like that shock factor.
Like,
It's just
what
the hell is this?
What are we looking, for example,
Yeah.
in a box fight?
Right.
We're looking for that
And it's so
knockout, that
it's so
punch.
controversial too because like so many people are like, is this really a sport? And that there's going to be so many haters on there, and he's there for it. I feel like.
Yeah, and the thing is, thanks, dude.
Thanks for sweating it out with us.
He had this thing. He was doing this. Dana was doing this thing with Sage Still, and he was like, and I didn't know he was gonna bring me up in this podcast. And I'll tell you how this happened. And it was sent to me because like 20 people were sending me like, oh, Dana said something like, oh shit, what did he say? And so I went to the facility, right, to UFC's Apex, and he was in the pitch meeting. And he was busy doing something, so he had somebody to walk me around certain parts. I didn't see the whole facility. I've seen like parts of it, the lobby, but I've never went inside and checked out everything. So he had someone to walk me around. And so I seen like the facility and like where the guys train at. They got cafeteria, they got food, they got all these like big machines, ice machines, cold tub, hot tub, like all the state-of-the-art shit. And, I was up in the office and I was meeting with Dana. I said, dude, let me ask you something. I said, people talk about fighter pay and everything else. Why don't you ever say anything about this? Like, me being a former athlete, I appreciated that more than anything because I know what we put our bodies through. Right. And so when I see these fighters got free access to all this shit there, and I'm like, nobody's saying this. It's expensive to get this treatment, and it's expensive. Like you can tell any retired guy when he's done, whatever everybody complaining about healthcare. Mm-hmm. Everybody's complaining. Every former athlete that I know of that played a physical sport complains about healthcare. So we understand if a guy can go there and use that facility, a hot, cold tub, therapists, and all these like crazy, crazy machines in there, how expensive that is. And I asked him, I said, why don't you say anything about this shit at all? He said, Shawne, I don't give a fuck. I said, what do you mean? He said, I don't give a shit. I said, let me ask that a different way, right? Because you hear about all this negative stuff with guys not getting paid, not getting taken care of, all this other stuff, whatever. And I said, why don't you say anything about it? He said, I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit what nobody thinking. I said, okay.
Because it's not that, it's going to be something else.
Yeah, it's going to be something else. And so I understood what he was saying from that. And so when people ask me, they're like, oh, you friends with Dana? Why you know Dana? I said, yeah, we're cool, whatever. And does he help you out? Like, he just did.
Yeah.
He just did. And so there's nothing that he specifically have to do for me or help me with. He just did.
Well, let me ask you this though, because like I respect that about him. I respect that. Like I don't give a fuck. I'm doing my thing, 100%. And the same thing about the work ethic. It's like, dude, that probably I appreciate more than anything about who he is and what he does and what he does for his people. But it's easier. I mean, you got to admit, it's a lot easier to say that, to do that when you're the top fucking dog. Like, you don't have to. You already got
Let me be honest, brother. Like, when you, even with Dana, and I know he says he don't give a shit a lot, he doesn't have a boss, but he got somebody paying their bills.
Yeah.
Right? And so you're never bigger than the biggest. Never. You always got somebody over you that can change the course of what you're doing. And he's at a point where he doesn't give a shit who changes, whatever. He doesn't care. But for anybody to sit back and saying that I don't have a boss or I don't have anybody that I got to answer to is a fucking lie. You have somebody that you have to answer to because somebody out there is paying you. Now, what your answer is completely up to you. You still could come and say, well, I don't give a shit what you think, and still have that attitude. But anybody to say they don't have anybody over them is a lie. It's bullshit because you got somebody. I mean, I think ESPN's paying them $300-something million a year.
Damn.
You know, or whatever that contract is, and those sponsors and everything else. Now, again, he came and there was a sponsor that said, hey, he wanted to take down a post about Donald Trump. And he basically told him to fuck off. Which
And the Peloton one, you see that
in
one?
the Peloton
Dude,
one,
that was,
right?
That was genius.
And so again, you when you're in a position to do that, you can. And sometimes it's not even about it's morals, right? If you feel this way and you want me to be a certain way because you're giving me money, get out of here. I don't want to work with nobody like that. So it's still morally your decision.
And there's not a lot of, you know, at least from what I see, man, there's not a lot of people like that left. Like there's going to be, hey, take that post or whatever down. Say, all right, cool, I'm going to take it down because I don't want to lose this money. But you got him like, no, fuck you. Like, you know, I stand for something, and
It's coming.
there's no about a money.
It's coming. A lot of this coming. There's a tide turning where there's a lot less of that shit going on because people are not worried about the repercussions anymore.
Yeah.
You know, and so when you take the power away from these people out here that's trying to control you, that you don't care about the repercussions, then that power goes away, and it's happening.
It's funny. It's like, look, who I think people for a long time forgot, like, who has the most power? It's us. We have the most power. The consumer has the most power.
Yeah.
Not you, but I think people forgot that for a long time. But you can see it starting to come back more and more. Where
Yeah,
it's like,
100%.
No. We control this.
I got a quick question for you, kind of changing topics really quick, mainly because what you're building right now, it's phenomenal, but it's hard to not realize all the other things that you've done in your career before this. And so one of my biggest questions is, it's like, being in the NFL, that's kind of like the pinnacle right now. As far as media, you want to be a professional athlete, you want to be a rapper, you want to be a business owner. That's like the three things that people want to aspire to be right now. So after you had already kind of hit that pinnacle, maybe in your life or your career, like what made you say, I want to buckle down and do something bigger, do it again in a different industry? Like, and then second to that, how did you get the connections? How did you go from being an athlete to being the successful businessman that you are today?
I think that most people, and it was something I was just talking to you guys before we got on camera. I just spoke at the biggest streaming convention in Denver, right? So anybody in a fast or streaming space, you were there. If you're big, all the Comcast of the world, all the CTV, everybody. If you're in streaming, you were at this convention. I spoke up there with some of the heads of Samsung and Zumo and Comcast and all this stuff. I think that people don't look at the bigger picture. I played in NFL. What's the biggest sport here in the U.S.?
Did you say what is the biggest?
What is the biggest sport?
By streams?
By just
Probably MLB, just because the amount of games.
no. I mean, who does MLB does not pull in NFL numbers? I mean, watch wise. In this country, the NFL and football smashes everybody. Games watched, the amount of people, ticket sales, TV deals, it smashes everybody. Most of the NBA rights, the reason why they got the big deals because they're the biggest international sport.
It's
Everybody.
crazy because they got a tenth of the game of the MLB.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
It's crazy.
And so here, so when you play in the NFL, it's just not like you're showing up there on Sundays and you're going to tackle people and go home. You're going and you're doing all this media for every big media or network company in the country, in the world.
So you're getting connections with ESPN and ABC and
So I think that people are just overlooking the fact that you played on the biggest I played on the biggest platform here in this country that has all. And NFL will always be king. Football will always be king here in the States. What happens with that is you get you're doing these broadcasting shows with Fox Sports and ESPN, NFL Network, all these guys. Then so you start to work, and that was with CAA, Creative Thought Agency, my whole entire career, also. And so you're around the biggest and the best in business. You're around the biggest and the best when it comes to everything because you're exposed to that. So when you're exposed to that connection, you have a want to, but you know that what you did on the football field ain't even a fraction of what you could really do. Because if you're tackling somebody and you're making a certain amount of money, what do you think the owners are making? What do you think these networks are making? the sponsors that's paying, or this or the marketing, the ads that's going on in between the games. When you start to look at everything on the grand scheme of things, you realize that what you were doing wasn't that big. And so a lot of people look at it like, oh, just NFL players, is in doing all this business now. Well, I'm doing this business because I play with the biggest business there is in sports. And so you have that opportunity to be exposed to that and be able to understand and see how things work and operate is a reason why I can go and operate at this capacity that I'm doing now.
And one of those things that comes with exposure is obviously you meet a lot of other high-level people in that industry sports period. And around the time that you were playing, the Lakers were kind of at the peak of where they've been in the last, 25 years?
Yeah.
And a little birdie over here to my left, he told me that you had a really cool conversation with Kobe Bryant.
Yeah.
And I wanted to hear about that because Kobe, coming from California, I actually grew up in San Diego. I don't know if I told you. My childhood, I saw people with your jersey on everywhere being in San Diego, so it's pretty funny. But talk about Kobe Bryant, man. Like, what happened there?
Dude, it was so Kobe's my favorite player.
Yeah.
And I met him, and he was in the front row at the ESPYs, and I was walking by. This was it was in the mid 2000s, and I'm walking by, and I feel somebody like grab the back of my leg. So I kind of, I turned around and started looking at my legs. It was Kobe. He was grabbing me. And I've never met him before.
Yeah.
And so I'm freaking out that he even knew who I was.
I'd be freaking out too.
You know what I mean?
Like, an NFL player, and I'd be freaking out.
I just came off. It was after my rookie. I think it was after my rookie season. I All Pro and Pro Bowl and all that stuff, Defensive Rookie of the Year. So, but I was so shocked that Kobe knew who I was.
Right.
And he stood up. We talked for about a couple minutes. And we always planned to get on catching up with him, but I didn't hear from him again for like a couple years after that. And so,
he's working.
Yeah. And so this was in at the end of 2007, and my phone rang, and it was like I think it was a number from Newport, California, or somewhere down that area. And I picked up my phone. And I said, "Hello." I said, "Who's this?" He said, "Well, it's Kobe." Kobe who?
Right.
Bryant. I looked at my phone. I was like, yeah, okay. Right. Kobe Bryant's like, listen, whoever's playing on my phone, the shit's not funny. All right. So stop. I was getting mad at that point. Hey, Shawne, it's Kobe. So I'm looking at my phone. I'm freaking out. And so he got my number either through my agent or somebody at CAA who I was with. And I was like, holy shit, Kobe's calling me. He said, I was reading about, your injuries with your knee and then your Achilles, because I had a partially torn Achilles that I was playing on and was hurt, was banged up. He said, I want to connect you with my doctors over in Germany for stem cells. And so, Kobe could have said, he could have sent me to Egypt. I would have, it could have been whatever they had over there. If Kobe called you and say, this over here helps, you're going. And so literally, man, like the following week, he told me about these stem cells and how I helped him out. This like in mid to late 2000s. And I got on the plane the following week, man, went to Germany.
Damn.
I think the coolest thing about it all, because like I said before, like growing up in San Diego, you were an icon, as you know. Everybody knows Lights Out in San Diego. Everybody knows who you are. They all have the jerseys up still. But it's really cool because we're in business, obviously, and we talk a lot about like second chances and people making something out of nothing. And I don't know exactly what your background is, but obviously, it takes a vehicle and then obviously getting capital, then relationships, and then you're able to do something. And what you've been able to do is really special. But it all started in Maryland, you said.
Yeah.
And I know you have an underdog story, but I don't know exactly what that underdog story is. I only know about the fame.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that, because I want to know how that created the type of person, because not everybody has to get to the NFL to get that platform, to get those relationships, and to get the capital that they need. Talk to me a little bit about, like, how did you know that you were that person coming from where you did in Maryland?
Well, I think I grew up in Prince George's County, Maryland, and we were talking before we came on about all the athletes that came from that D.C., Maryland, Virginia. I was actually with
just a few, right?
Just a few. I was with Carmelo on Friday night. I was with Carmelo Anthony. We went to go see Lil Wayne out in Vegas. We went to go see him play, do a show, and we just sitting there catching up because I haven't seen him in like almost 2 or 3 years. And just catching up, man, and we, brought up some funny stories like about growing up. Because he grew up in Baltimore, I grew up in, Maryland, which is when you get in that DMV area, DC, Maryland, Virginia area, you're within an hour away from everything. And I'm talking about everybody, everything. And so all the top name guys like KD, we grew up in the same area. Michael Beasley. Bees actually we grew up in the same household for a minute. And so Michael Beasley, his dad and my uncle were best friends. And so I would see Bees would be at my grandmother's house all the time when we were kids. And then we kind of fell off because they ended up going somewhere else for basketball, whatever. But we all came up around like the same AAU programs, basketball, because I played basketball first.
Yeah.
And I went this way, and like Katie and everybody like went that way. But anyway, we came up in like the same area. Nolan Smith, DeMar Johnson, like
Really
crazy.
quick, you know what's funny though is, from my perspective, just as a massive sports fan, it feels like sports was 30 years ago was such a small world because all the athletes knew each other, and it's just coincidence that all these guys knew each other and they went to high school together. Like Jason Tatum and the Panthers guy, Turchuk, they grew up together, and it's not a coincidence, is it? And that's kind of what I was poking at.
Man, no, it's not, because I'm gonna tell you why. As an athlete, we're all very competitive. And so you start to compete against these guys at like 11, 12 years old. And so that goes all the way up through junior high, high school, college, and you're still watching that same guy that you competed against to see what they doing. Right? It's like it's no different than LeBron and Carmelo and all these guys playing in a high school McDonald's game and them looking at the 15 plus careers that they've all had, because they're all competing from the bottom. Yeah. And so you grow up competing against the best, and that competition never really leaves your body. It never really leaves who you are in nothing you do. Like I guarantee you a lot of those guys are still looking to see who's doing what, and business-wise, and like, okay, that he's going to buy a team. I got to get a team. Like there's a lot of that to go on. And it's healthy. It's not like nothing hating-wise. It's nothing bad. It's just a healthy competition that you always want to compete to be the best at what you're doing. And that happens with a lot of us. So, growing up, like Vernon Davis, DC is probably about 20 minutes away.
Rip to his brother too.
Yeah. Rest in peace, Vontae, man. Love that boy. He so a lot of these guys, Vernon was 20 minutes away. So that's what I mean. If you look at like a 35 to 45 minute radius, all of us, grew up in that same area, and you just grew up competing, being around each other.
But it's crazy because, and you kind of mentioned it there, but it's like whether sports, business, whatever, it's like, you hear that a lot. If you want to be successful in business, get around other successful people or people that are going to push you to be better. So it's like, by no means that's not a coincidence what happened with you and all those guys. There's no coincidence there. It's like you guys are pushing each other to be the best.
What was your childhood like though? I mean, like, what did you have like an easy going?
No, hell no.
That path, or?
No, I grew up in Prince George's County in that Washington D.C. area, like in the 80s and 90s, like mid to
those
late
who don't
80s.
know, how is it out there?
I mean,
I'll tell you this. I accidentally just flew in. My parents just moved to D.C.
Yeah.
And I thought I was flying into D.C. I don't know the airports out there. I flew into Baltimore. I was like, oh.
BWI?
Yeah. I was like, this is not what I thought it was.
Yeah, no, it's so it's a lot better now, but like I grew up at a time where the crack epidemic and all that hit DC first in the country. When crack cocaine got here to the States, it went to DC first. And so I remember like growing up walking over needles in the street, and like it hit it hard. That was like that Merriman time where all the craziness in DC was happening. Like DC got hit with the drug epidemic bad. And so a lot of, I got family members and friends of family members that kind of fell by the wayside in their life, man. But you got to think, when you're in there at a single parent, like my mom raised me and my sisters. That was it. My dad wasn't really around. Now, we got a good relationship now, but he wasn't when I was growing up. So my high school, my boys and girls club coaches, like my Pee Wee League coaches, stepped in like as a father, uncle. And then it was my high school coaches that stepped in like a father, uncle figure. So it was really my coaches who stepped in, was that figure for me that wasn't there. And so our neighborhood, actually, the neighborhood that I grew up in Fordsville, probably about 5 minutes from there, was on the top 5 murder capital of the country for like 5 years straight. That area.
Baltimore's still up there, top 5.
And yeah, Baltimore's still up there. And so even though DC has cleaned up a lot and a lot better now, it wasn't like that when I grew up. And one of what happened was, in the neighborhood I grew up in, so we couldn't afford rent. So they cut our lights off, got eviction notice from the door, all this other stuff. And she ended up lighting a candle because we couldn't see. And the house, our place ended up burning down. But that was
Wait, what?
Yeah, so she lit candles because the electricity was out.
I love how you just skipped over our place burned out. What?
Yeah, so our place ended up burning down for that reason because we couldn't afford lights. So our place.
So you already can't afford the rent, you can't afford the
And then the
lights, and now your
place
house is
burned
burned
down.
down. Now where do you go?
So that was the second time my place had burned down. Oh, shit. The first time my place burned down was I was 11 years old.
Were you in the house?
Was that?
Were you in the house? I know you're gonna get there.
So okay, so the first time I was at my babysitter's when I was 11 years old, right? My sister was 9 and I was 11. So my babysitter had witnessed a murder in our neighborhood. These kids had murdered somebody. My babysitter had saw it. And so we were all in an apartment, and the guys wanted to go and make sure that she didn't testify. And so they took one of those cocktail bombs. You put like the cloth and
Molotov.
the Molotov cocktail bombs, and they took it and they threw it through the glass. Mine just like me and we were just coming down. Me and my sister were just coming downstairs, and it was like 6 other kids that my babysitter was taking care of. She was watching. We all got out, except for one 4-year-old girl.
Oh,
so I remember my babysitter. She was older, so she tried to run back in and grab like her husband or whatever, and her kids were all in the military, so they had a ton of pictures on the wall. So, she tried to run back in there and grab pictures and stuff off the wall to save it, but she couldn't. They stopped her from running back in. And she tried to run back in and grab the little girl that was taking a nap on the bed.
I was gonna ask about that.
Yeah, so I'm sitting there, I'm 11 years old, and I'm sitting there over the flames. I'm seeing this little girl burn right there on the bed because she never woke up. And so luckily, she had a brother that might have been a year or two older than her, like 5 or 6 years old. We all came around. The firefighters came and they knocked the window down and pulled her brother out. But you can still see the little girl burning on the bed behind him, like right over the smoke, right over the fire. And so when you and then obviously the kids who murdered the guys, now they got double murders and they got arson and all this other stuff. They got life in prison. They found out who they were. They caught them. Life in prison, no parole. They're still locked up. But that was a very, and I'm not gonna say normal, but we all knew in that environment you don't talk, right? Like because those things happen. Mm-hmm. They're gonna come and somebody's gonna find you. So you don't talk to police. You don't do any of that back from where we grew up at because it was very normal. Jeez. So that's the type of stuff that I saw at that age. And that wasn't the first time something like that happened, because you got to think Washington, D.C. and PC County and around that time was one of the worst places in the country. And in certain parts, if you look at it, still is.
Right.
We're some of the worst parts of the country. But it was very prevalent around that time. So you grew up around that, your skin is thicker than most. Like that's when we get out here now. I'm like, oh, you don't get rattled. You know, yeah, buddy. You haven't seen what I saw. So I'm not gonna get rattled as you, because my upbringing and what I had to deal with to get here is a lot different than yours.
Do you think, obviously you're, a very talented athlete from a young age, but do you think that had any part of it in terms of getting out of there, where you're just like, man, I got to get out of here. I got to make this work. I got to make sports work. I got to get to the league.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll take it even a step further, because I was angry at what I was living with, right? Like I was angry. So I was angry that I come home and there's eviction notices on the door. I was angry that we didn't have food. I was angry that when we did have food, it was like the bare minimum. I was like very angry. So that's when football came into play, because I was like, where can I go take this anger out for a couple hours and not go to jail? So I laugh at this now, but then it wasn't that funny. I laugh at it now. So one of my first articles I had when I was ranked in the country as a top prospect coming out, ranked like top 100 in the country, my sophomore year. ESPN, my first article I did, first publication, that I was getting some like national notoriety. And so the reporter, after the practice one day, he said, he came up to me, he had the little tape recorder, and he had his little notepad. He said, God, you play with a lot of passion, a lot of aggression, and why do you play like that? What makes you love football so much? I said, I'm 16. I got no media training, right? I said, sir, I can do anything I want to anybody and not go to jail.
While you're on that, I wanna ask you. So you're number one. How does a kid, stays away from trouble, and actually zone in 100% on football?
Thrives from it.
Exactly. 'Cause you could easily get caught up on the day-to-day, the drugs. Like, my mom is going through this.
Yeah.
Like, of course, we're young. We don't know how to channel our testosterone.
Yeah.
How do you stay away from those sort of things?
It's a lot of good decision making, but if I say that luck wasn't involved, I'd be lying.
Okay.
Like, a lot of good decision making because, you know what was bad, and then too, back when I was growing up, like the drug dealers, the hustlers, the dudes in the gang in the neighborhood and stuff like that. If you were a good kid and you played sports, they didn't want you around. It's different now, man. Like, they try to bring you in and they want to be around you. But like the drug dealers and stuff, when I grew up, and like the local neighborhood hustlers or the guys who were in gangs, they were like, get your little ass out of here. Like, if they knew something was going down in the basketball courts or somewhere in the alley that they know that, this good kid, he played ball, but get your ass out of here.
They knew you had a future.
I know you mentioned your uncle a couple of times now. Like, was your uncle a big part of that saying? Like,
Well,
you better watch out.
It was all, man. Like, I was fortunate. I had some really good people around me, right? Like, I didn't give off that energy, like that I was going to be a knucklehead or somebody was going to be in trouble. Only thing I did do a lot growing up, I fought.
Okay.
I was in a lot of fights. I fought. I mean, my grandmother, my family aunts used to take, if I had a problem with somebody in the neighborhood, my mother, they would take me to fight.
Okay, so let's go ahead and ask you this.
Oh, no. There was none of that.
Now, for the viewers that don't know,
Yeah.
go ahead and break down for us where does the Lights Out nickname comes from.
So I knocked out.
Stole my next question.
Okay. I knocked out 4 kids in 4 kids in one game my sophomore year.
Sophomore.
Yeah, my sophomore in high school.
Okay.
In a football game?
In a football game.
Took your helmet off and just scrapped.
No. This is all on the field. This is all on the field. This is on the field. But it's crazy because
Like, what?
So we like, I grew up in a neighborhood, like, fighting was just normal. It wasn't even like,
when fighting was fighting. 'Cause
Yeah.
Now.
Well, people can't fight now. They got other means, right? Yeah. So like, if I remember, I was in elementary school. I was in the 5th grade, and it was these 6th graders who I didn't like, and so you're not allowed to cross the street. And these guys, like patrol guys, like kids, whatever, the 6th graders, and they walked across the street, and I went to go I told, because I didn't like these 3 kids. I didn't like none of them, and I told. And they found out that I told. So that day after school, the bus, they let us go at the top of the hill, and it's like a 2-mile walk to my apartment, at least a mile and a half. And so I get off the bus, and these 3 kids who I told on, they got off and started chasing me.
Shit.
I took off running, right? Because there's 3 of them. They're 6th graders. I might have been in the 4th or 5th grade, and I ran a mile and a half. I didn't stop, and then finally I got probably about 30 or 40 feet away from my place, and my mother heard all of the arguing outside, and then she opened the screen door, and she basically pushed the screen out and told me to turn around and fight all of them. Told me to turn around and fight all of them. I said, okay. I took my book bag off, my backpack. I turned around. The first guy came up. I fought him, knocked him out. The second one came, and I knocked him down. And the third one, I just jumped on, right? Because at that point, he was scared. He was scared. Yeah. And this happened. So by the time my mother came walking down, we stayed on the 2nd floor. By the time my mother came walking down the stairs, she saw me, and then the guys, one of the rental office guys who worked at the complex, had to pull me off of this 3rd kid. The other 2 was already laying on the ground by the time my mother walked down the stairs. But this was very, very common for my childhood growing up. This was very common. And so, but again, my son's fought, like, my son would never have to live like that. It was a necessity at that time to live that way. Yeah. And I was so fortunate that it was like that, because if it was any other way, then my mentality different, I wouldn't have made it out of there. I would have been one of those punk kids that jump in a stolen car from school or go and steal from a store, be a lookout kid from somebody robbing a house.
Yeah.
But the mentality that was around me was like, don't take any shit. Stay away from anything stupid. Don't do anything you're not supposed to do in sports.
I mean, now it sounds like your mom is or was a strong character woman.
Yeah.
She has. How does her guidance play a role into everything that you have done? Like, don't give up, turn around, fight them. Like,
Yeah.
Are there any other situations where you're like, man, like my mom?
Man, my family in general, my mother would, she was very important, especially for my dad not being around, right? Mm-hmm. But also too, my grandmother would take me to say, my aunts, my uncles they would take me to fight. It was a very, like I said, if it was a problem in the neighborhood, if a kid was picking on me, or anything would happen. I remember two brothers were jumping on me one time. I was in my freshman in high school. I ran and grabbed my uncle, who's a professional boxer, how I got into combat sports in general. I went and told him. He said, all right, where they at? And he walked me to the playground, and he lined them up, and I fought him. And that was very common from where I grew up at. That way nobody else would pick on you, right? Yeah. So, yeah, it was normal.
So I think it was 2010 or 2011, again, topic change, you were acquired by the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah.
And I heard that you told them no.
Yeah.
What happened? And why did you end up getting on that plane?
So
was it like $25,000 a day or something like that?
No, so it was worse. It was worse. And I look back on it now, man, because I was so fortunate to play in Buffalo. But before going there, I knew the charge because I was hurt. I was injured. I came off my knee and I had an Achilles, and I just ridiculous.
You were Pro Bowl, what, first 3 seasons?
First 3, and then my 4th year is when I started having injuries.
Okay.
And so I knew it was coming. Like that, like my contract was going to be up the following year. They were seeing if I was ever going to get healthy. And after I tore my Achilles, it just never was the same, right?
So you got hurt your contract year after
the
3 stellar years.
Yeah, my fourth year, when I really got hurt, and then my 5th year, I just was banged up all the way through.
At that age, what you signed a 4-year rookie contract?
5-year.
Okay,
so my 5th year would have been up for a deal.
So that like really, really hurt the chances of you probably getting like the supermax that you were probably eligible for.
Yeah, if I was to stay healthy, I would have had the biggest defensive NFL contract ever. Yeah. At that time,
you were on pace for sure.
Yeah, and so because the numbers was just so astronomical, and the numbers I was putting up, from first year all the way up to that point.
Early, like you were doing it off the bat.
Yeah, because
was it rookie defensive player of the year or defensive
rookie of the year? Yeah.
Okay, defensive rookie of the year.
Yeah, and I was up for defensive player of the year 3 years straight, And so when you have those type of like that explosion, then you get hurt, your mentality changes, right? Because I've never been hurt before like that. That missing any kind of, considerable time. That was my first time actually being hurt, dude. So I was like depressed. I'm like, what the hell is this? I can't go, I just couldn't wrap my head around that I wasn't the same player anymore. That was the hardest thing. That's why when guys are supposed to retire, the athletes are the last one to know that they're actually retired.
Julio Jones.
We're out there looking at them like, man, if you need to sit your old ass down somewhere, right? But the athlete we don't see it that way. We're actually the last people to know because we're so headstrong that we can't put ourselves into being not who we were. Mm-hmm. So it's tough.
You actually touched on a point of, air quotes, the downfall and everything, depression and whatnot, but I actually wanted to bring it back to your early years, high school.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to wrap my head around you getting all the awards, all Matt honor from the Washington Post, Defense of the Year in Maryland, whatnot.
Yeah.
What does that do to a 17, 16-year-old, 18-year-old ego in terms of like, I'm walking around, the kids in high school, those are the most popular. What did that do to you in terms of your ego?
I think back then the egos were different because we had to go out and prove that we were the best. And you can only do that by lining up against somebody, football, basketball, whatever sport you play. Now, it's a lot of false bullshit out here. These kids.
Do you think social media?
Social media. There you go. Yeah. And sometimes I want to sit back and say, like, dude, you're not even like that.
Yeah.
Or you got all these cool clips during the off season that get 600,000 views, 1 million views, and you get to the season and don't do shit.
Yeah. Right.
So basically, in a sense, you're just a social media superstar. right? You're not a player because you get this false sense of people telling you how good you are, and you're really not, right? And so, like back then, and I think Deion Sanders said this the best. Even at the Pro Bowl, like we came out there and chilled the first quarter, but that first hit happened. That shit is full go, right? Because we all wanted to go. That was my first time with Peyton Manning sitting there watching me run around.
Do you feel there's some sort of like entitlement, knowing like I'm
Yeah.
the shit, like I got the skills, so I don't have to?
People can say what they want about Nick Saban. I think players should have been getting paid. They should have been having a scale. If I was Nick Saban, I would retire too. Because a 17-year-old is not going to sit across the desk from me that has never lined up and done nothing and say they want $500,000 when I'm not coming here. Go somewhere else. I don't even want that shit on my team. Right. And so anyway, the mentality is different. But it's okay. So let me get back to the Buffalo thing. Right.
Yeah.
I was hurt and I could not get healthy, and I knew the team was going to trade me, waive me, cut. But something was happening at some point because I was seeing my name pop up on the wires for just different trade options.
That's not good.
And I'm like, well, it could be good if somebody else going to pay you or you go into a better situation. But I knew why. I knew that I was not healthy. I wasn't the same player that I was. So I knew that it was coming at some point. So finally, when I got waived that day, and it was dark, man. It was dark in the building because nobody saw it coming, right? I did, but the outside really didn't know when that day was coming. And so when I found out that Buffalo wanted to get me, because when you get waived, the team with the worst record got first dibs.
Right.
So at the time, Buffalo's 0-7. And so I think me and Randy Moss got claimed the most out of any waivers ever. It was like by 6 teams or something crazy. And so, like, I had the Dolphins. It was right after that. It was like 49ers. It was like 6 teams total. But Buffalo had the worst record. Buddy Nix, who's a second in command GM for the Chargers, now was a GM with Buffalo. So Buddy is actually the one who really drafted me.
The relationship.
So the relationship. Got it. So they called me and they said, Shawne, we're gonna put in your contract in the NFL. We want you out here. And I said, listen, buddy, I love you. And I will come see you guys after the season, but I don't want to come there. I said, you're on 7. You're not going to the playoffs. I don't want to come there. Yeah. But I will. You got my word that I will come and see you after the season. I want to go somewhere where I got an opportunity to go win a Super Bowl and play on a team that got a chance to go to the playoffs. You guys, you're practically out of the playoffs. I don't want to come there. And not hung up the phone, but I rushed off the phone. So he calls me back like 20 minutes later. They said, well, Shawne, just letting you know, we put your contract in, see you in Buffalo. I said, buddy, you're not hearing me.
He said, no, you're not hearing me.
I said, you're not listening. I'm not coming to Buffalo. I'm just telling you, I'm not coming to Buffalo. I mean, you guys have no shot at going to the playoffs, and I just don't want to come. And he said, Shawne, I know you, and I know your heart, and I know your spirit. I know you had some injuries. You're not the same anymore, but you can sure as hell help us out in this locker room, lead these guys. I said, buddy, I'll do all that after the season. I'm not coming there, right? And this is when I felt like a real asshole, dude, like real asshole. And I was like, I shouldn't have, but Mr. Ralph Wilson got on the phone, and I wasn't, he's older and he's, so well respected, and everybody loved, Mr. Wilson and all that. And I told him, I said, Mr. Wilson, I got nothing against the franchise, but I'm not coming. And he passed the phone back to Buddy. He said, well, if you don't come, we're gonna have to fine you like $20,000 to $25,000 a day.
How does really quick? How does that work? Because you got waived. So someone can just pick up your contract and then you're obligated to fulfill the rest of that contract because they bought it out, basically.
Yep. And so when they put it in and you don't show up, they can legally fine you. You see guys like Chris Jones, who's all these people that held out.
Yeah.
You don't show up, they can fine you per day. Right. Some of these guys lose $500,000 to $1 million.
Yeah.
Just by not showing up, and whatever they work out with the team at the end, they work out. But I was like, so I was doing the math. Like I had this little notepad that was from a hotel, right? There was a little pen next to me. I was like, so I went silent for like a good 20 seconds. I started adding up. I said, so if I don't show up a week, This week, I was like, that's $250,000. I said, and this is on a Monday. I said, can y'all send me a plane by Thursday? Hey, man. Hey, look, I said I can't stomach that 25,000 a day, dude. Like, you know, like nobody's balls is that big to me, man. I just, for me, I couldn't really. I said, man, but you know what? Let me tell you this. I'll say this. It was by far the best thing that ever happened to me, sport wise, because what Buffalo do, you get an opportunity to be out there and they treat you like you're a second or third cousin. Like you walk out in the street, you be downtown, or you go. I went to a couple Sabres games or whatever. Like on the West Coast, you know, people hop out and want to take pictures. Even on the airport, me coming here, like I took like 10, 12 pictures, right? Yep. Buffalo, people walk by you and just be like, yo, what's up, Lights? Or what's up, Shawne? And they'll keep walking. Like you've known them for a decade.
Isn't that kind of refreshing though?
It was, dude, honestly, I wish that every athlete, and I don't know what city, I'm not, you know, kind of shitting on nobody's fan base, right, at all. But I wish every athlete got to experience that level of love in the city, because it does something to you as a player to make you want to go out and do something for them in return. It is the craziest feeling, dude. And this is why.
Never thought about it that way.
This is why I say coaches matter, fan bases matter, all this stuff matter, because when we beat, I never beat the Patriots when I was with the Chargers. I didn't beat the Patriots until I got to Buffalo. We made Tom Brady throw like 4 or 5 interceptions in one game. You know, I was hitting him left and right. We were hitting it.
It was statistically one of his worst games.
It was the worst game, I think. Yeah, worst game ever. And we were hitting him left and right. I was talking shit to him. I mean, it was beautiful. It was great, right? And I remember the city shut down for 2 days. You would have thought we won a Super Bowl, because they haven't beat them in so long. And again, we felt like we did something for the people in Buffalo. And I never had that feeling ever.
Something bigger than just sports and
money. It was way bigger than sports. Way bigger than sports. And like I said, I really do wish that, you know, as any athlete that play in a different city that don't experience that, know what that felt like.
You're the second person to tell me that in 2 days about Buffalo. I know we got to wrap up here soon, but I've got a question, and I mean this in the most respectful way. As a guy that's from San Diego and that watched the Chargers my whole life, I've seen a lot of all-stars. I've seen a lot of guys go into that organization that had the ability to win a Super Bowl, and a lot of teams that had the ability to win a Super Bowl. And obviously that's the biggest goal whenever you get into the league and get into a team after getting your first contract. But just I think it's important, because it's the same in business as it is in sports. You see all these super teams that get put together. Yeah. I'm not saying you guys had a super team, but you guys had a pretty great team. You guys had Vincent, you guys had Gates, you guys had Phillip Rivers.
I think I wouldn't mind, you know, I wouldn't typically use super team, but I think you could say that. Yeah.
So I'm gonna correlate this to business. What is it that when you look at that super team and you run with the Chargers for 5 years, they had all these pieces. What was it that kept you guys back from hitting that final goal? Because I think that same thing happens in companies and business. Yeah. When you have all the pieces put together, but it's that one thing that's missing. What was it?
I think that we were so good, we were so dominant that we didn't realize how hard it was to get back there. And that's coming from upstairs all the way down. You know, you fire a 14-2 coach. That's not ever good either. But I do feel like I played on a team with 5 Hall of Famers, right? Potentially 5. For sure 3, but should be 5. And so when you're going out...
I forgot out Tomlinson. I forgot to put that one in there.
Yeah, that's what I'm... So you going out, you kicking everybody's ass It was easy. Like the practices were way harder than the games. Because I had to go against Marcus McNeil and Antonio Gates, Low Neal, LT. And guess what? When LT took a seat, Michael Turner came in. And whenever Michael Turner got tired, guess who came in? Darren Sproles. That's how deep we were, right? We were that deep.
He was trying to act like Sproles wasn't nothing earlier. I was like, you don't watch football.
just only like 8 in all purpose, but that's it.
I told you.
You know, so, you know, like we were so deep on both sides of the football, I think that we didn't realize how hard it was to get back there again. And those teams. So you got like a good 3 to 4 year run. Right, so look at the Legion of Boom. Look at all these teams. Only team that you got to take that out is the Patriots, because Tom was there and the teams that they assembled, and the same coach, same staff for almost 2 decades. But for the most part, you got within 5 years to when you won at least 1, maybe 2. Mm-hmm. And you know, Patrick Mahomes, those guys, they're looking at doing 3 because they got that nucleus with
4 now. They've already got 3.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, back to back, like
right.
That. If they won again, it'll be the 3rd one straight, right? So the 3-peat they took. Yeah, okay. So. you got a 3 to 4 year window to like win one when you got all your guys there. And so we were so good, I think, that we didn't pay attention on the details when we got there. Like we were better than the Patriots when we got kicked out in 06. In 07, we were better, like even when North got there, we were still the better team. In 08, we were really good. 09, we were really good. But when you have those teams together and before everybody started to disintegrate and leave, LT's gone and Michael Turner's gone to Atlanta, and just you start looking, everybody's leaving. You're like, oh shit, we're not as good as we once were, and that time has kind of passed you by, man. So I think that with all of us, we just really didn't take advantage of like the opportunity that was there. And then I didn't really even look at it until I got further away from those teams that I played on. Like, shit, man, we were really, really good, and we just didn't win one.
How has that kind of like correlated into business as you've retired from football and moved on? Like thinking about the fact that you never got the ring there.
I preach this all the time. It's momentum. Take advantage of momentum, and this is why when you got momentum in your favor and things are going right, you slam on the gas as hard as you can, because you're gonna have those times where shit is just not good. And you just roadblock and roadblock and roadblock. And even me, I spend most of my time fixing things, right? Fixing things, staying on top of it, putting out fires, working things out, and being creative. Like that's most of my day when it comes to, staff, employees, and people I'm working with. But for that reason, what you just said is, I swear I preach momentum. So when things are going good, everybody else around me, I'm like, go, 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 go. Yeah. Take advantage of this moment. Take advantage of this time that we got right now, because coming from that time, we had those teams, those 4 or 5 years. We should have won, if not one, if not two. So right now in this streaming business, stuff that I'm doing in MMA, combat sports is hot right now. Mm-hmm. It's super, super hot, and a big part of because of what UFC did. But there's a lot of organizations that's popping up that are just getting a lot of traction. So with us, we got an opportunity to be a very, very successful feeder organization. Everybody's around me like, go. Let's get these fights. Let's go every 4 to 6. We're having to fight every 4 to 6 weeks now. And then 2025, I'm hoping to have 2 a month if we can. And then as far as Lights Out Sports, we talked about caffeine and some of these other guys going under. Guess who's here, right? It's a perfect time to start adding more live sports. It's a perfect time to start working with the NFL and some of these other leagues out here, and we're doing it. But again, it may come a time where these bundling things might happen, where you got the ESPNs and Fox Sports and Hulu's merging, you got Paramount and whoever else merging, you got Amazon looking to crush everybody. Like there's some streaming stuff going on, but right now is a great time for us. Take advantage of momentum, and that's what I constantly preach when I'm talking to everybody around me.
Yeah, it's like they say, man, momentum, like hard to build, but it's easy to steer.
Yes.
So you got to keep that momentum while you're going.
Absolutely.
All right, man, last question here.
Yeah.
So I was watching some of your content, and I saw when you were a rookie, how you got stuck with a $32,000 dinner bill.
Yeah.
Tell us that story real quick.
What was your signing bonus, really quick?
It was like 8 or 9 million, I think, somewhere around there.
Back in 2005, you got a $9 million signing bonus.
Yeah, it was always top. It was number 12 pick
Is that a
overall.
record for a defensive player?
It was up there. Yeah, it was close. And so they got these, rookie dinners where your top draft pick has to take out anybody on the team that's 4 years and in, because 4 years is when you're vested as an NFL player, right? So you 4 years and then I had to take out the entire team. I never spent any crazy money like that before, so I don't know what, I mean, I might have paid for 10 people at a dinner before, maybe $1,000 if you want to get crazy, 1,500. I've been in some clubs where I'm, 2,000 for bottles or something or whatever, and like nothing crazy, right, at that time yet. And so I took the team out, and I remember Big Jamal Williams over there and like Gates, they ordering all these wines, Drew Brees ordering these wines. I just turned 21, bro. Like, what do I know about wines, right? I don't know the difference between a $10 bottle of wine and 1,000. I have no idea. But I know Drew Brees got 2 of them in his hand, right? And so I look over, and then it was this drink that that Antonio Gates ordered, and it was a bottle. And I said, well, we're sitting there drinking it. And I said, what is this? He said, it's Louis the 13. And we crushed the whole bottle between me, him, like 4 or 5 of us. We ran through a whole bottle of Louis XIII. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, with a big-ass smile on my face, thinking I just did something, trying to order another bottle. So So Gates like grabbed my forearm. He's like, you sure? I said, yeah, man, shit, I'm thinking in my head, like, okay, maybe it's $500 or something, like tops, Yeah, let's get another bottle. I said, all right. So we ordered another bottle. And we, like 5 or 6 of us, we ran through that.
Where was this at?
This is at Papa Moose Grill in Del Mar.
Love it.
Del Mar. So anyway, I ended up ordering 3 bottles of that. And then Drew Brees has 2 bottles of wine, and I ended up finding out it was like $1,000 each, right? Then you got the food, and now everybody else there, singular drinks and all that. And towards the end of the dinner, the owner of Papa Moose Grill came up to me and said, tapped me on the shoulder and said, Shawne, I need to see you in the back. I said, for what? I said, dude, I got my black card. You can't tell me shit. I'm like, man, just bring the bill. Fucking, like, what is the problem? He said, no, you want to come and see us in the back. I said, man, what is a big, like, come on, man. I'm having a good time. Shawne, you want to come see us in the back. I said, all right. I got up and I went back there by the kitchen, and my back is like kind of against the wall. And
Literally?
yeah, literally. And so you ever seen the CVS, the Safeway? I mean, the CVS receipts, how long them shits are? Yeah. Like, just unnecessarily long. And so I get the receipt, and I'm like, this shit is on my foot, right? So I'm lifting it up, and I see the bottom of it, and it's like 32,000 and some change. I said, oh my God.
This reminds me of that Wolf of Wall Street movie. $70,000 in sides? What, they do, cure cancer?
All right, listen. I got lightheaded, right? So you ever got lightheaded, your knees like kind of buckle just a little bit,
grab into the wall,
right? And it was so bad. The bill was so bad. I started going through. I was like, listen, I didn't order this asparagus right here. Like, I don't know who the fuck. I was like, I don't know who the fuck ordered this. Yeah, I don't know who ordered this asparagus, but I'm not paying for this shit, right? Like, I was like, who? All this butter on this bread. I was going through this list. I was so pissed off. I was like, I don't even eat corn, right? I was like, look at this shit. Right? Look, I was trying to get everything off of this bill, and I got to the point, man, where I was just defeated. And I gave them. Look, it's funny though. I gave them my black card, and for the one time, I was hoping that shit declined. I was praying, right? Because I knew if it declined, I could tell them I'd work it out later, and I worked the bill down to something. That shit went through, and nobody never called me from the card. I was so mad. I was so damn mad. I was like, you know how many times I was buying like $800 worth of clothes and my shit just declined because I was in a different state? Yeah. I was like, a $32,000 tab just went through and nobody called me for nothing. I was so pissed off, man, that I was like, man, you know what? Not too long, a little bit after that, I got rid of my black card. I got rid of it, and I was like, I want anything that you can just pass through and not get a call, for something. But you know what's funny about that? So they end up they stopped doing that right after.
Still doing what?
The rookie dinners.
Still doing them with different teams now.
But they're not as crazy. Like, it's a lot of like false. Like they.
Oh yeah, did you see that one where it was like a $60,000?
Yeah, it wasn't real.
And he was all, and they're like, "Oh, we're just messing with you."
Yeah, it wasn't real. They for the most part, I think Dez Bryant was the only one that was close to my bill. Other than that, I think I still unfortunately hold the record.
You already know Dez was talking a lot though.
Yeah,
like,
I just seen Dez on Friday. But you know what though, man? Honestly, like I remember after that, like LT gave a speech that was talking about how much they're going to need me on the team and go out and perform. That was kind of cool. I was still pissed off about the bill, but I guess that eased the pain a little bit. Yeah. So.
Well, right on, brother. I appreciate it, dude.
Good, man. Appreciate y'all
coming out, Shawne. This was awesome, and that's another episode of The Playbook.